Good afternoon to you. Glad you're with us this afternoon. Well, once again, we begin Newsfeed with developments around Eskom and the claims made by the former CEO, Andre de Ruyter. This time, it's President Cyril Ramaphosa who's spoken about the claims that there are people in the executive, in government, that have special political protection as far as Eskom and criminal cartels operating there are concerned. Ramaphosa was answering questions during the state visit of the Ugandan President, Yoweri Museveni. Our reporter, Govan Whittles, with the President this afternoon. Govan, good afternoon to you. What did he say?
Stephen, it's clear the President has been following some of the reporting on what's happening at Eskom, particularly around allegations that there are 4 cartels who were essentially benefiting from looting Eskom, corruptly so, and he's taken note of the reports that there are 2 cabinet ministers who allegedly are running the cartels and offer them political protection. Firstly, the President says that no one that is conducting criminal activity has any protection from his cabinet. But importantly, the President making a call this afternoon for anyone with information about protection being offered to cartels from the cabinet to come forward with that information, with the evidence, and going a step further, directly addressing the claims made by Andre de Ruyter and his claims that he approached a senior minister who we now know is Minister Pravin Gordhan with the claims. The President saying that Andre de Ruyter missed an opportunity to report it to the law enforcement agencies. And the President explaining that he believes the law enforcement agencies and their strengthening are now sufficiently equipped to deal with issues such as these, and he pointedly pointed towards the Fusion Center, which is essentially the coalescing of different agencies where he says it's very difficult for investigations to be tampered with. Let's take a listen to what the President had to say about the alleged protection of criminal cartels coming from within his cabinet.
I'm not aware of people who have political protection within the executive, and if there is evidence to that effect that certain people have political protection, I'd like that to be put forward, because it is quite an important matter that needs to be ventilated. And then again, there are also ways in which these matters have to be dealt with and through.
President Cyril Ramaphosa, they're calling for people with information to come forward on this issue which is dominating the Eskom corruption story in the country right now. He called for people to come forward with evidence 3 times in that answer. Indicates that the President is putting his faith in the law enforcement agencies here and believing that this matter can be unraveled through the law enforcement agencies. Importantly, in that reporting, but notably by the Daily Maverick, they indicate their intention to reveal the people who are in the cabinet who are allegedly providing protection to the 4 cartels who are said to be operating within Eskom. That issue, of course, dominating the question and answer session, Stephen, but this question and answer session was preceded by extensive talks conducted between South African diplomats, the President and his counterpart, Yoweri Museveni, at the state visit, the first by a Ugandan head of state since 2011. Let's bring in now my colleague, Hugo Ribatika, to talk about the state visit. Hugo, a lot said by the 2 presidents, of course a few sideline issues dominating the discussion, but what are the takeaways from the visit itself?
Well, Govan, there's obviously a lot of potential, certainly according to Yoweri Museveni, the Ugandan president, on bilateral relations. And I think all of that was summarized in the 3 MOUs that were signed and the 2 agreements. And those 3 MOUs are speaking to tourism, transport-related issues and cooperation and development. The one thing that President Yoweri Museveni said, which is contrary to what the world is pushing for, is that Uganda needs coal. And South Africa has coal, and there are opportunities there for South Africa to be exporting coal to Uganda. He also talked about the issue around agriculture and the fact that Uganda has an all-year supply of rain, if you will, and there are great opportunities for South Africa to go into agriculture in Uganda. He also talked about arrangements or agreements where South African companies can go and manufacture or process for onward transmission export to countries such as the United States of America and the European Union, where they have agreements. But I'd also like to raise the issue around peace, and that was a big thing that President Ramaphosa spoke about in that media briefing, and he touched on a number of countries. In fact, he talked about the DRC and Ethiopia, and how, as the African Union, and certainly as two of those states are pushing for peace in those countries, and also the Western Sahara, and finally, the reform of the UN Security Council. He talked about how they, as Africa and the African Union, are pushing for a seat on the UN Security Council.
Thank you so much, Hugo. Joining us here from the Union building, Stephen, perhaps we should end it off by rounding back to Eskom. It's important to note that today is the 20th anniversary of Eskom's agreement to supply Uganda with power. The President confirming that agreement comes to an end today, and Eskom will no longer be providing Uganda with electricity. That will certainly lighten the load and hopefully give Eskom more capacity to generate power here at home. Stephen, it's back to you.
Govan Whittles for that live update. Thank you very much indeed. Well, the President talking about electricity there, as Govan explained.